What's that? Who there? Whoa.
A few questions broader at the kind of food and bev level. So the first one are just around trends. So I know, as you mentioned, you led food and bev at Pear, and obviously you're living and breathing the food world now. What are some of the interesting trends in the food and bev space that you're seeing emerge or predict will be a huge factor over the next 3 to 5 years that people might not expect?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. Um, I would say gut and digestive health is something we're seeing a lot more of. Like a lot of brands like fiber, prebiotics. I don't think these were sexy things that people cared about, right? Because they're not physical appearance oriented. Uh, Things like low carb, low calorie are always going to be in vogue. Like those are not fads; those are macro trends. Because at the end of the day, I do think most people are they care about losing weight as much as that's not maybe like the s- best thing or whatever. It's just like that is a thing, frankly, because people are superficial in many certain ways. Sorry to be so negative, but I think when it comes to again like gut health, digestive health, which is more internal, um, people are getting smarter. People are more well educated on food. One of our we're close to the team at Olipop, which is a prebiotic soda replacement, frankly, and they just did their first national TV ad, basically like positioning themselves against the big soda companies and really just use a ton of liquid fiber, digestive fibers in their formulation. And it's interesting to see the amount of traction they've gotten in. Of course, they position themselves probably more as a healthy soda, but I just think that over the next few years, we're going to see a lot more emphasis on fiber. I don't think that. Well, okay, so I think the paleo community maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, it was growing quickly, but then it kind of got overshadowed where like people then started focusing on keto. Um, and I think keto has had its heyday and obviously it's declined a lot since the peak. And I have definitely heard, people are kind of regressing back to like the caveman style of like, hey, whole food ingredients, simplify as much as you can. Obviously, Immi is not a paleo product. We have wheat, but truthfully, like as an Asian person who grew up, as in an Asian family, Asia's never had issues with gluten in the past and things like that. So it wasn't really a primary focus for us. But I definitely agree that reducing processed foods is probably one of the most important things you can do. I just don't know if that's like a recent trend, but it's just funny how when you look at the cycle of foods where it's like protein bars, it used to be Quest bar, which was like, okay, Quest bar, it's going to be a certain macro, it's going to be like low net carbs. But then if you look at the ingredient label, it was like insane. And then it kind of like turned into the RX bar, right, which was like clean label. And I think you can kind of see that happening across different categories where, first it was like all about macronutritional profile, and then it was about like wholesome reduced ingredients. So that I don't think that trend's going to go away.
Yeah, that feels like where we're at. It also feels like the percent of the overall population that cares about their food one way or another, not necessarily which bucket they're in, but the fact that they care about being in a bucket, that percent as a whole is going up, which means there's a lot more room for discovery in some of these smaller areas.
I would say the interesting thing is like people like you're always seen as the crazy one when you and your social group of friends starts to eat healthier, right? People are like criticizing you, they'd be like, "What do you mean you're going low carb?" Or like, "Well, like what keto? Like, why would you do that?" And you feel ostracized. But when you start eating healthier, you can't. It's almost like you can't unsee it. It's like from that point on, you're never going back. You don't have to be extreme, but you probably will start changing your eating habits. And when you loop a friend in and they see the same thing, they will also change all their behaviors. And so the direction is like it's all one way, right? People are getting healthier or they're getting smarter, and hopefully healthy food costs will also go down over time because I do think it's restrictive from a economic standpoint. But I do think that that will happen over time. And if that's true, then it's like why would you want to die faster if you have the option not to? So I think the market will keep expanding in that regard.
Totally. A different question at the same lens or same altitude on the category. So, and this might spring you, without thinking about it. So we can definitely pass if needed. But what other food categories are out there that you feel like haven't yet been disrupted with a healthy alternative that are, like you said, sleepy. Like ramen, instant ramen was kind of a sleepy category, and you guys came in and disrupted. Are there any others that come to mind that you feel like a healthy alternative is bubbling up?
I'm fascinated. So there's a lot of companies springing up that are tackling the most, like, they could sound like the most niche possible. A lot of these are actually frozen foods that I'm thinking about right now. There's like a Brazilian bread company that it's like, I had never had Brazilian bread until a Brazilian friend of mine, he invited me over for dinner. I tried it. I was like, holy crap, this is so good. And then I started seeing them in the frozen section of like Whole Foods. And um, there's a lot of these types of foods where another one came out recently called Snow Days, which takes like the pizza roll. I think it was Tostino. I don't remember who makes the old pizza rolls. And they make like a healthier, like grain free, like every type of seed oil free, like pizza rolls. And it's a absolutely amazing product. I love it. And I think there's just like, I don't know if that would be considered a sleepy category, but it's definitely not something that I consider like a sexy food that all of a sudden is like, wait a second, like, yeah, I could totally see myself buying this for like, every time I'm like headed out to like Tahoe or something, hang out with friends or, just like a random Friday night when I don't want to order out. So, um, yeah, I wish I had a better answer, but I would say it's a lot of these like one-off things that I just wouldn't imagine. Like yogurt is a big category, but like pizza rolls, interesting. Like I couldn't imagine that could be reinvented.
Yeah, that's when I saw you guys on Twitter released Immi, I was like, God, that makes so much sense. And like ramen is such an obvious one. People, you go to like I live in New York, you go to great
Mm.
ramen shops. You don't think twice about like, oh, is there a healthy alternative? Because it feels like it's made the right way.
Yeah,
But no, very few people that are our age are eating Maruchan anymore because
exactly.
you
It's
just know it's not
terrible.
good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant.